Hey, everybody, it's Nicole Bonner with Thriving in Chiropractic, and I have my partner in crime with me today, Dr. Colton O'Brien. Hey, Colton.
Hey, what's going on? Super excited for today's podcast.
I'm super excited for today's podcast too, because today we have Dr. Tiffany Johnson, or Dr. Tiff, from
Hi.
from North Dakota, and this woman is just killing it in practice and in life, more importantly, really in life. And so we're going to pick her brain a little bit, guys. We have a lot to dive into, so we're going to go ahead and get started, but we're going to pick her brain today, and we're going to find out how she's doing it all. So Tiff, welcome to our podcast, and give us all the goodies, okay?
Okay, straight up.
Straight up. I think you said it right through the eye.
That's
That's
right.
All right, man. So you are you've been in practice for what, 18 years?
Correct.
Awesome. And I can totally relate to this. I've been in practice 23 years, and you're serving a lot of people, and you're also a wife and a mom. So if it's cool with you guys, I would personally like to start there, because I'm kind of in the same boat. I've been in practice 23 years. For a long time, saw over 600 office visits a week and raised a family and did it. And I'd like to start there. So Tiff, how do we do that? How does that happen?
How do we do that? I think I learned from contrast a lot, meaning when things don't work, I'm like, oh, okay, so this isn't going to work. I don't learn as much from validation, meaning you're doing a great job, everything is great, blah, 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 blah. And so I pushed lines. I mean, I've pushed lines my whole life, and just trying to see, like, where is it that I'm the most comfortable, the most happy, the most abundant in my office and at home. And so in contrast, I learned, because shit would hit the fan at home, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, it can't hit the fan at home. Like, I am not good. I'm not good at work. And so what I notice on the table, leading a team, mentoring people, is that we are only as good as who we believe that we are in leading something moving forward. And so I would push a line and learn from contrast on, like, that's too far, that's out of alignment. My marriage would struggle, and I would be like, oh yeah, I haven't given anybody attention at home because all I'm focused on is here. And what's interesting now when I look back and continue, but my identity, which I think a lot of our identity is built in our office. We find out who we are there. And by validation, we start to believe in ourselves because of the work that we're doing. And if we're not careful, we put our identity in our work as a chiropractor instead of who we are as a human. And so when I started to look truly at the core identity of who I am as a human, it was all rooted in, I am a kick-ass chiropractor and everybody loves me. And then we go home and I'm like, oh, I haven't done it. I haven't put as much attention into my family and into my kids. And I had 2 babies in chiropractic school. So when I opened my practice, I had 2 babies, doesn't matter when you have. What's that?
Can you talk to us a little bit? Because we get this question a lot, especially from younger women in chiropractic, is like, they're very, I don't know if it might be like a little bit of a state of confusion. Like, I know that this is what I want, but like, how do I get there? Is this even possible? And, I want to have a life. I want to have that, like, balance with my, I don't know if I'm not a fan of the word balance for a multitude of reasons, but they're like, I want to have children. I want to be a wife. I want to have this beautiful family, but I also want to have this beautiful practice. And I think a lot of young women are not sure if that is even possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I just wrote a Facebook post right before I clicked send, right before I got on here. And it was, instead of asking, can the world hold my vision? Ask God, can you hold my vision? So as we move into, can I do it all? There needs to be a level of self-trust and faith in yourself first. Well, however people feel the hierarchy goes, God, universe first, you second, to bring this dream forward. The only dream we have is the one that's meant for us, right? Like I always share that with my clients and patients. If you have a dream, it is yours. It is yours to bring forward. And so if your dream is to have a practice and whatever that looks like for you, and be a mom and have an extraordinary marriage and build wealth and abundance, yes, you can, and you were meant to. I believe the inner work is, can I hold all of this? Do I deserve to have this? What if I fail, right? Like, so the power of regret versus following your dream is very different, right? One is a very low frequency energy, and one is, yeah, I've got you. Continue to go after it. I say, take a step and the universe will respond. God will respond. You have to take the step. You have to move. You have to go towards the direction that you want to, and trust then that things do drop in line. But is it hard? Oh my God, it's hard. Of course. And there's not many people who are doing it well, truly. And I can just speak for a woman. There's a lot of struggle and a lot of emotional constraint on, I do want to have babies. I do want to be a hands-on mom. And I am also meant to have a purpose far beyond my home. And it's okay to see both of those. I set up right away, like before we had money, I knew I was going to need help. I knew I was going to need nannies. We were going to need after school care. We were going to need people to export them to and from things. I had people cleaning the house. I had people cooking for us sometimes. Like we went in different phases of when we were busy. They're both graduated now. But all the way through, that's how we did it. And they knew, like, mom and dad follow their dreams. I think the greatest compliment that could ever be is that the majority of parents, we want to teach our kids to follow their dreams, right? So we're like, yeah, do whatever you desire, and yet we aren't. And so the greatest compliment that my kids ever gave me was like, I do not doubt that it's possible because you guys have done it.
Right.
So when we can show that it's possible versus talk about it being possible, boom, now we've changed the next generation, right? Because I believe that's why we want to be parents. We're like, there's something in it for the next generation. How do we create amazing humans? I think one of the things is you gotta truly know and trust what you're meant to bring to the world, and then do it.
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. That's like such great advice, great wisdom. And I just like, what stuck out in my mind, Tiff, from that is, well, two things. Number one is you have to just take the first step. That was like the first thing that you had said. I always think of that, it's probably like yours and mine error, but like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Remember in Raiders of the Lost Ark where he comes to like the end of that tunnel, and then there's just that total like cliff.
Yep.
And he has to get to the other side, right? And he just takes that first step into what appears to be thin air, and something just comes underneath him and like holds him up, and he walks across the whole cavern. He walks across the cavern to the other side, right? And so when you were saying that, that was like the picture in my mind that came to my mind, is just taking the first step, and everything seems to fall in place.
It does. It always does. I think we spend a lot of time learning how to take the first step, or asking people who have taken the first step how they took the first step, or reading more books on how to do it. And like, truly, you've forgotten, So if we just go back into, we know the step, like we actually know the step. And if it's to figure out or to refine a skill, that's different. But we know the step. We don't need to know how to do it.
It's just having faith.
It truly is a higher level faith, trusting of a higher vision that you're meant to carry forward.
Yeah.
And
then
really the 2 points that I wrote down from you speaking is just like what y'all said: trust, faith, but also vision. I think when you're talking about that came across really strong. And I mean, I can't imagine, I can't relate, and I know some people out there probably can listening, but having kids in chiropractic school with the gauntlet that chiropractic school is, plus just the unknown of what it's like after. I mean, it was just me and my wife when we started the practice, but still I was thinking about not just me, but I mean, there's another person jumping on this journey with me. But to stick to what you wanted to do and have the faith and have the vision, and looking at where you are now, like, I mean, that's gotta be so affirming.
So affirming. And we get to like, I feel like that's when we get to look through our rearview mirror, right? Like, it's about the only time to look through the mirror.
Mhm.
We don't need to see how close things are to us. We don't need to see how fast we're going in comparison to somebody else. We just need to see how far we've come and know that that really was us. Like, we actually did it. And when the vision is really strong, or when the God voice is really strong, whatever that is for people, if it's an intuitive nudge, or like it kind of becomes something outside of you that you're meant to bring to the world that isn't here already in the way that only you could do it, right? We all have our practices, and we all have our imprinted way, and there is nobody like us. And so it's not a like, oh, there's how many thousands of chiropractors, like, do I need to open up a block down the road? Yes, you do. You do. Because there is nobody that can do it in the way that you do it, to affect and impact people that need you to do it in your way.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I want to highlight, because there's so much that you said. Shoot, I can't even get off this first thing that you said.
Right.
As another like important point, because I hear this a lot, and I think especially from female chiropractors and young female chiropractors, is like losing yourself in, like, when you are a high volume practitioner, of having that fear of like, okay, if I'm a high volume practitioner, that's going to take away from my family. And you made such a perfect point to this, and that is that it's like, no, you're not taking away from your family. You're actually giving your family and giving your children a vision for what's possible. And you might be breaking like generations of I can't
Yes.
by you doing what you know that you can.
Yes.
And you said that.
Yes. That, truly that, how many times do we live bigger for our kids, or we say we do, and they haven't seen us take one uncomfortable move, or we don't show it to them. It's one thing that in our family, we've been extremely open. There's been a lot of celebrations that we've celebrated together, and a lot of heartbreak and a lot of challenges that we've also done together. Didn't matter if they were 2 and 6, 6 and 10, 10 and 14. Like, now they understand what it actually means to own businesses. Like, we're both entrepreneurs. We own 4 family businesses. Hey, I don't know many like dinner conversations that don't involve business. Sometimes my kids are like, okay, can we just set an agreement? Tonight's supper, there's going to be no business talk. Okay. 15 minutes.
Well, I'd love to jump into, so kind of just, you shared about chiropractic school and the vision and the trust. So what was that process like? So you graduate, and what happens next?
I came to Fargo, to Moorhead, actually, to do my my T9 or T10, whatever that one was. And so Gavin at that time was 6 months old. Right. Okay. And it was he saw an older population of people, but had a beautiful building, and he was just a really great human. And I did my best to sell the shit out of hiring me, right? So I'm like, and we could change this pink pastel countertops to this, and these chairs to this, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I had everything. I mean, truly, I had everything mapped out as to how I wanted to change his practice. And he's like, Tiff, you need to just go do your own thing. So prior to that, I don't know if they still do this, but I think it was T7. We had a visualization exercise, and we needed to write down and describe in detail what our office looked like, what it smelled like, what it felt like, the flow, the patients, the team, the everything, right? Everything that mattered in what we wanted to create. And so I created this big red building along the river and trees and all the things. Well, when I was looking at Fargo, I reached out to a realtor and he's like, hey, this building just came up. No kidding. It was red. It was back by the river. There was nothing developed there. There were trees. So I actually totally ignored that. I mean, that happened in T8, T9. Like I knew it. I saw the building when we moved to Fargo. I toured, I talked to all of them, and I still tried to talk him into hiring me. And so, you know, when you look at how everything just lines up how it's supposed to, and sometimes we don't know the reason until afterwards, that was the precise example of like Tiff. So I called my realtor. I'm like, okay, Jay, that one's mine. Is it still available? And then, yep, we went to tour it. We signed it the next day.
Wow.
And so when I think about like, what was it like? Like, what were the conversations with Craig like? It didn't matter. It was like the affirmation that I knew exactly what I needed to do. I don't remember conversations about, I don't know if I can do this. Like I believe when things are like crystal clear in our vision, when they're crystal clear in our vision, the thing we doubt is our ability to bring the vision forward, right?
Mm.
I don't think we actually doubt the vision, or you may make an excuse to doubt the vision, but it really isn't the vision's issue here.
Mm.
And so what made me the most nervous was business, right? Managing money, managing a teammate. I was kind of, I think I got through all of it with a really hard outer shell. I flipped into ego really quick. Like I really thought I was better than a lot of people then. And I can totally see that now. And I also see, I think that's the only way I could get through it for how I needed to. Just needed to put on my cloak of like, all right, I'm unbreakable. I am unstoppable. I'm just going to continue to do this. And eventually, like that has been in the last 15 years of my life is, all right, how do we take this armor off? And now how do we show soft power instead of like patriarchal power? So I think that it's been I think that's the journey we all eventually come into is what is the most innate natural part of you that was covered up by the hard stuff, and how can you now trust to open that up and let it out and let it like move you into other visions.
Wow. My wheels are turning right now. That was beautifully said. I just like the vision that I got, or like what I saw in my mind was just kind of like taking the mask off, because I can relate. Like I'm kind of going through it right now, just being a first year doc and just doing everything I can to, you know, get people in the door and provide the best care. But then it's natural to like, if I have any like limiting thoughts or limiting beliefs, it's like the moment they come into my head, it's like pushing them out the door and reaffirming who I am. But also like I have always been like a soft leader and like a loving leader. So I think that's really cool, and kind of like starting to find my own expression in this and how I can offer that. So you talked also about how you built this, I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it wasn't about like systems, procedures. I can't remember how you said it, but essentially off just the care that you brought forth is how you built the practice. So if you want to jump into that, I think that'd be really cool. You kind of share what the office is like and how you offer your services and what people experience when they walk into your office.
Can I just say, Tiffany, for those of you guys that are listening, Dr. Tiffany has an all cash, high volume practice. So for those of you who are opening a practice, this is the time to tune your ears on. All right, tune your ears, open your ears, because you're going to learn something right now. Okay, go Tiff.
So I wanted to be a chiropractor. It has always been about transformation. I always, like, from the get-go, transforming lives was my mission statement. I didn't even totally know what transformation looked like then. I never wanted to follow the pain, like, quick crack model. And I say quick crack because, like, I spend 2 minutes with people, but it isn't 2 minutes. So the difference is in your energy. The difference is in how you see the person. The difference is what you know about them, about what makes them come alive, what makes them sink. The difference is what you know about their family, like how much you actually give a shit. And so back then, the majority of leaders in chiropractic profession that I followed, and they were the younger ones, not the Reggie Golds of the world, but the next generation down, would always say, shouldn't be friends with your patients because, you know, that messes up the boundary. Shouldn't have close people working with you. That messes up the boundaries. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way that messes up boundaries. That means you can't hold a boundary. So how do we learn? And like Colton, as you're going through this experience, being 1 year in practice, the whole journey gets you to just be a stronger in personal power, right? We have the hard patients that we learn how to communicate better. We have the hard patients that learn how to value money. We have the hard patients that we learn how to hold our power. Right? Like, we learn through all those contrasts as to how we essentially started it. And my greatest piece of success is that my practice is like my family. I know everybody. I know them inside and out. And because I am a seer, I'm an energetic seer. So on the table, I know them. And I have built that in, like, I'm sensing this in them. I'm not really sure how they're going to handle this question, but I'm going to ask them anyway. Hey, Jane, how's your marriage? Cries, right? Like, how's it going at home? Tears. Because when and who gives care like that now, especially now? Who does? Where do they go? They go to a counselor and they have talk therapy. No, nothing next. They maybe have therapy or some kind of modality that they think is actually healing them. So do they ever feel like they're the powerful one that's actually healing? Probably not. They have a medical system that is treating stuff with stuff. Once again, do they ever know that they're the healer? Do they ever know that they are the power? And so what I wanted to create was, you absolutely are the healer every single time. You need to see yourself well, and I am your #1 fan. And no matter what, if you need something, like, people have my phone number. Thousands of people by now have my phone number. I don't care about that stuff. I don't care about, be careful if they might take advantage of you. If they start to take advantage of me, like, I got a boundary problem. Like, that isn't anything about them. And so I built this off of wanting people to feel my love, to see my love, and to, like, create that as an extension. And when we care about people, we treat them better, right? Like, I care about all parts of their life. I am not a physical chiropractor. I mean, yeah, I'd say everybody has pain when they come into the office, but a lot of people tell me, like, I don't even really know who I am anymore. So I'm the one that people see that are like, okay, and I've tried this and this and this, and I read your website, and what? You do what? Yeah, because I see all of you. I see your pain. I see your light. I'm going to move in and through your pain, but I'm also going to lead you towards your light. And I don't think us as chiropractors, or even just practitioners, I don't feel like we're seeing them, like, all of them. If we don't see their emotional system, like I always say, the body tells us, guys, like, it tells us what is happening if it trusts us and if it is in safety. So first line of defense, create safety in the brain, create safety in the body, right? No, they might not open up to you right away, but as safety is restored and as regulation is restored, and the shift away from threat and survival, you are the one that they trust the most, because you're the one that's been able to see them in their yuck and still love them. So when you see, like, the body tells you what the emotions are saying, the body tells you what the brain is saying, the body is telling you what their spirit is saying. I understand this is a skill that many don't think they have, but you got to build it. And I believe that's our responsibility. I believe we're like in a model, a medical model, that, like, what the hell is like clearing someone's low back going to do if you don't tie it to something else that actually matters, right? You look at the energy of what low back is, it's sex, power, money. Hello. Do you think we got more challenges than just the SI joint? I'm like, come on. So think of what else we can be for people to really help them believe that they really are the healer, and their job is to see themselves well, happy, extraordinary, abundant, and show up on my table. Then that's magic.
Tiff, how did you grow that skill? Because I'm with you 100% of the way. Like, everything you guys just, based on, you know, my experience as well, is like everything, write this down. You guys better be watching this in rerun and rerun and rerun. Wire what Tiffany is telling you into your subconscious. She's 1,000% right. Two things: the more people that you can love, the larger your practice is going to be. And I remember one time I went to a Rob Schiffman seminar. Did you ever see Rob Schiffman? Rob Schiffman at one time had one of the largest practices in the world. He saw like over 2,000 office visits in a week. And I went to see him. He like was holding seminars, and he did this really and you have an open room adjusting, and I'm going to speak to open room. You have an open room adjusting. And yet one of the things we were talking about before we started recording our podcast today was how, you know, you have this open room adjustment. You physically, in physical time, you spend about 2 minutes with a patient. That's us too in our practice. And yet you have such a deep and loving connection with your people, that your people can continue to come back, and they bring people with them, right? And this flourishes your practice. It opens your front door and it closes your back door. And it reminds me of something I heard. I love to share this story. When I heard Rob Schiffman speak, seeing 2,000 people in a week, where, you know, he would literally go in, lay hands on people, and go out, go in, lay hands on people. He would hear cavitations even before he thrust it into the spine, and then walk out. The adjustment was done. Subluxation was corrected, healing was restored, and he would walk out, and he would have all these healings, even though he was seeing like thousands of people a week, and all these people would get healed, right? And one time he was in a room with people for about 30 seconds. And one time he did a survey with his patients. And one of the questions that he asked on his survey was how long does the doctor spend with you? And like all the people that filled out their survey came back and wrote, oh, the doctor spends like 8 minutes with me, 15 minutes with me, 10 minutes with me. And I had like this aha moment, because he was working, and as his chiropractors, we work in this space all the time. He was working in a space that's not the physical space.
100% there. That's the X factor as to what we're unable to create, because what creates that is you. He created that. Yeah. That isn't a model of like, create a spiritual space. And people are like, well, what are you talking about? Which is why when like I communicate to them afterwards, but my energy doesn't ever come down out of the ether, out of the beyond the dimension, right? Like it is in that's how we learn how to protect our energy, quote, protect our energy. I say that like lightly, but be totally in the energy of that person at that time, disconnect. Totally in the energy of that person at that time, disconnect. When this person says, I have cancer, you have to disconnect and you have to move to the next one. Like, this is how we build our power as like not only our physical being, but our emotional being and our spiritual. That is the X factor. That is what some of us do, and what I would like everyone to be able to do, because the laying of hands is a spiritual experience. What I feel in people's body when the body talks to me is a spiritual experience. It's not like, how do you do that, Tiff? Well, because I do that in my mentorship also. I do that in my family. I do that all the time. It is just what it is, right? Bodies always just talk to me. I believe it's my ministry. The body talks to me. And I understand what is the body, what is the mind, what is the heart, what is the emotions, what is the soul, like what are all these pieces? So who can be that pioneer? Like that's what we're building into. And when we don't have a great enough vision, or we don't create space in our life, or we have health issues, or we're practicing in contradiction, or we're not taking risks, or we don't believe in ourselves unless we're adjusting, like we don't have any identity other. Are you going to be shown another vision for like what else to bring to the world? Probably not. Create a spiritual space. 100%. I remember in T5 when we were doing technique stuff, which like, I don't get it. I do not get technique of the spine. Like, because I don't practice there. So seriously, the body tells me, we're going to start at C1. This is how we're going to adjust. And then it just tells me. It tells me where to go and how to do it and when to do it and where to do it. And now it's not conscious at all, right? It's just like, but we were in technique. And so the job, we were in a circle around this student on the table, was for everybody to go and figure out what they would adjust. And I was like, huh, this is weird. Like, obviously making it something physical, right? So what they were teaching was fixation of a joint. And I don't really even know. Like, I get it. Like, this block of your spine does not move. But like, what I would adjust from fixation, I have no idea. So I would just remember watching the people go before me. And so I got to his feet and I was like, well, these are the areas that I would adjust. And they're like, what are you doing? And so I didn't really recognize it, honestly, until probably 7 to 10 years ago. I've always recognized the gift, but I didn't know that other people didn't have it. I thought everyone, this is just how they saw the body, right? And so I started asking some questions to people. They're like, yeah, absolutely not, Tiff. I do not see the body like that. I move the joints and I see if they move in all the directions. And I like, that's awesome. But there's also a space for us who see beyond the physical body and beyond the joint and beyond the spine in a way of, I am a channel and a conduit between God and them. And I am now meant to deliver this in this certain way based on what your body wants. And I do that whether my hands are on you or whether they're not, right? Like, I do that in my mentorship without my hands on anybody, because I know what needs to be shifted.
Really is a gift. Have you ever walked into a room with a new patient and knew that they had a disease process?
100%.
Have you experienced that yet, Colton? You will.
Yep.
And people are going to go, how did you know that?
Yeah. And then there's the courage to speak it, right? Like, there's the courage to own that gift and to say like, I don't know what this means or how this looks, or right? Isn't that how most people would be like, no, never mind.
Not me. I don't have that part of the brain that turns my mouth off. I'm just like, whoa, look at that liver.
Yeah, right. And I just believe that chiropractic was the gift that I can do all of my magic with, or one of the gifts that we can do it with. We're not a chiropractor, as much as this is our modality to change the world in the way that you're meant to change the world. And however you're meant to do it is your responsibility. That's what I mean by personal power. Like, I believe it's really selfish to not be open to the ways that we're meant to bring something to the world. because that isn't what the world needs. We don't need more normal, mediocre people.
Mm.
People who are broke, sick, unhealthy, and miserable in their homes, right?
A question that I have is, so, you know, whether or not sometimes we like it or not, sometimes new patients or clients, whatever you want to say, will come in and they have a like pre-existing narrative of like what chiropractic is. And so I'm sure coming into your practice is a total shift. And like, what is your approach to communicating what it is that you do and how you see the body and how you just how you do your work? Is it just like right off the bat? I remember first time listening to Arno speak, he talked about just like shattering their consciousness of what they believe, and then I've heard other people like gradually bring them to where they're at. There's like the meet them where they are, and there's the bring them to where you are. And can you speak to that for a second?
Yeah, I lead. I'm a very strong personality, but I lead with mostly soft power, honestly, in that. I don't think they care. I think we think they care. And when we are really trying to get somebody to understand it, we are out of alignment. So can we just be in it and it radiates out of us? Can we just be in it and we're in overflow, so that there's no way that they're wondering if this works or not, but they're not thinking about how this works. So later, there's intriguing questions like, what are you doing and how do you know? Well, that's a different than like, can you tell me? In the beginning, I connect very deeply to their story. And what I work the most on is mindset of them seeing themselves well. And their story cannot involve their old shit. And that there's a lot of that, right? There's PTSD, there's disease, there's mindsets, there's medications, there's loyalty to all of those pieces. They think loyalty, that is very difficult for them to move out of that identity. And I just tell them, the only thing I need you to think about is where you're going instead of where you've been. And I will stop them in the like, oh, I'm just waiting. That's just Monday. Oh, just waiting for the next shoe to drop. I said, I never want to hear that come out of your mouth again. And it was done. She's like, I say that so often. Yes. And you also say, knock on wood. I'm like, I never want to hear it again. You have to be disciplined to change your mind on some things. Because without your mindset moving with you, how can your health ever change? Like, how can your marriage ever change if you believe a certain thing to be about the other person or your last relationship or what have you? So I don't talk about chiropractic. I talk about their life. I tell them what is going on in a way of like, this is what I want to see from you, not their responsibility, but this is what I believe is going to happen in your life over the next 6 months. And they don't care. They don't care what I do. They honestly do not care what I do next. They don't care what we do. They care how they feel when they're with us. And they care about results, and they don't even need them fast, I will say. They just need some commentary about what it means, right? So they don't start to doubt, because as soon as doubt happens, they go back into the old unconscious track of what it means.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that answer.
You're welcome. That releases so much pressure. Because really, like, let's just focus on building skill and communication and rapport building, right? Like, let's focus on practicing scripts around what does this person say and what does this person actually mean? What do I feel in their body? What is going on? And like, let's just lead in the way that you lead, in the way that you can help them get to that, like, see that next version of who they can be. And this is why I say, like, practitioners in the world we don't see people like this. We see what comes in the door and we hope they feel better after. Like, that's so limited. We're not going to change humanity, and we have an opportunity to change humanity in such a great way because of how many people our hands are on, right? How many families our hands are on. We get to truly change like the generational path on what they feel they can actually achieve in their life.
If one of the ways you described yourself is you said, I'm an activator for strong humans to step into their next level of creation and living. That's friggin' like power.
I know. Well, we can either see activation as positive or negative, right? I've always been a fire lighter, and people either hate it because I trigger them or they love it because something that they didn't see is on the other side of it. And so when I say a strong human, I truly mean somebody that sees the activation as their next level that is really uncomfortable versus like, she triggers the shit out of me. Well, yeah, I just told you the truth. That's why. Like, you don't have to choose it, but an activator is somebody that shows you what could be next. That's it. And that is in your money, that's in your mindset, that's in your health, that's in your marriage, that's in your relationship with your kids, that's your personal power, your confidence, your contradiction, how you're living versus how you're speaking, how you're loving versus at home versus how you are in your practice, because it's easy to love people that are there for a service. It's harder to love the people who are in the depths with us sometimes, right? Because it's a whole different level. So everything I do when I'm in my truth in the core, it's like I describe, I can see so many different visions of people. Like I can see that tenfold. So when I speak to you, I'm not speaking about where you're at now at all. I'm speaking, and I'm not even speaking to the next version of you. If I can see 10 versions or 100 versions of you, I'm speaking to what actually needs to be activated right now to move there, not, oh, just put your pinky toe in the water. I'm not gonna do it. It's not gonna go anywhere. So how do we interrupt the system and connect them back to their alignment and the parts that they really love about them, and then start to do something that brings you more light and more joy? Like that gets to be the skill that we learn, and how we start to see ourselves different is via activation.
Well, just speaking for myself, I feel activated and inspired, and I'm off on Wednesdays, but I can't wait to get in the practice tomorrow and really shift some things that I've been doing in areas where I've been maybe surface level or focused on me rather than the people coming in the door, or focused on collections rather than service. And yeah, I'm inspired.
You,
I love it.
you're a natural leader. So like you have a natural ability to connect with people, and a lot of people work really hard on connecting with people. Dude, you already have that. So show that, overshow that, right? That they actually, like, you can leave that conversation, you can leave that interaction knowing they know how you feel about them, and work on the confidence of all of the other pieces of like, oh, did I lose a little bit of my power there? Did I feel like I was trying to appease them? Was it a really strong personality that I was really trying to like puff up and all of a sudden act weird? And I always, if I have interactions like that, I will either text the person, message the person, or the next day say like, I'm really sorry. I either didn't act like I cared, or I made you uncomfortable. I know that, and this is how I was feeling. Like I didn't ever sugarcoat who I was in those moments when I made a mistake. And that's not only to patients, but that's to your team. That's, that's to everybody. It was like, can we show a little bit of that softness on, I didn't do this right. Like I didn't do this well for this person, and I need them to know that.
I love that. Are you guys ready to wrap this up?
Sure.
I'm not ready to, I gotta be honest, I'm not ready. We have to wrap it up. but I'm not ready. I could stay on the phone with you all day, Tiffany.
Oh, isn't that true? Like when we can find the people that we can have these conversations with. And I think in chiropractic, it's really important. It's really important to find the people you can have the conversations with. Cause like spiritual room, there aren't many that we could have had that conversation in and on. Like that's the realm that a lot of us are practicing in. And you have to just find your people to continue to have those conversations. And like, how do we teach more? How do we lead this conversation more so that people even know that there's a next level, like beyond technique, but more so, I would say, in order to teach a technique or start a technique, whatever, create one, it is through the eyes of the beholder. And so no matter what, I mean, you could teach 10 people my technique. It doesn't matter if you're not holding spiritual space. Because that's what we got to teach. And that comes from us. Like that comes from who you are as a person and what you're able to lead, how much you're able to trust, what your leadership is like, what your communication is like. What is the congruence between home and work? I just don't think we're that great in our purpose if our home isn't in order. You know, it's like one of my biggest pillars. And how do we do it all? But like teaching a technique doesn't matter as much if we have a person that doesn't believe that the body can heal. I mean, that has a person that if somebody complains of low back pain that only adjusts the right SI joint and doesn't realize that it's all a machine. If you can't like see, feel, hear cells or energy or, you know, dimness in the body, then you can't talk that way either. Like, so there's all this congruence that needs to go with creating a spiritual room is, I believe, what we need to bring to the world. Like this conversation is what we need to bring to the world.
Awesome. Tiffany, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you guys. You were great. Really great.
Yeah, this was awesome.
We were great. You were friggin' awesome. What are you talking about?
I know, but the energy matters, right? Like truly, the energy matters.
I know.
These are my favoriteest conversations in the whole wide world. So thank you for being able to have it.
Awesome. You're more than welcome. And Colton, I think we are gonna have to have Tiffany Johnson episode 2.
Yay. I'm in.
Cool. I'm excited.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, that's another episode of Thriving in Chiropractic. Hope this was a blessing for you guys, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.